Hello, my name is Chad Taylor, Managing Partner with MDT Financial Advisors here in Houston, Texas. Today we're going to talk about something that almost nobody thinks about it until it's too late. And I mean like literally too late. Where do you actually keep your estate documents? Not just that you have them, but where do they live? Where are they located? Because if nobody can find them when they need them, it's almost like they don't exist at all. So let me give you a scenario. Here's what I want you to picture. Something happens to you. You're in the hospital, or unfortunately, even worse. Your spouse, your kid, or your executor needs to act fast. They need your will, your power of attorney, your healthcare directive. Do they know where to look? Could they find anything within the next hour? That's what we're talking about here. So let's make sure we're on the same page about what goes into what they're looking for. Your will, your revocable living trust if you have one, your durable power of attorney. That's the one that you name who makes financial decisions if you can't. Your healthcare power of attorney and your advance directive, which spells out your medical wishes. Maybe your HIPAA authorization so that your family can actually talk to the doctors, and your beneficiary designations, at least a record of who's listed and where. These these are the documents that matters most when things go sideways or when there's an emergency. So how do we kind of account for all this? Option one is have all these documents in a fireproof home safe. This is one of the most common things that people do, is that fireproof safe at home, and this works really well with one condition. Somebody has to know that it exists, and they have to know the combination or where the keys are to get in it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of families that found out after death that there's a safe in the house, but then no one can get it open. They don't know how to get it open. So if you go this route, I think that's great. Just make sure your spouse or your adult child or your executor knows the code or where the key is to get into that safe. Option two is your attorney's office. Most estate planning attorneys will keep documents on file, especially your will. This is actually a solid option because attorneys aren't going anywhere and there's a clear chain of custody. Now, on kind of something to keep in mind is when I say they're not going anywhere, that's normally the case, but I have heard through the years, at least once, where there was a single practicing attorney and he did pass away unexpectedly. And the worst part of it was his spouse, who also worked with him, passed away unexpectedly. So it was very hard to get documents after that from them. So I think that's a great option, but just make sure you've got other options that you're depending on as well. And then the other downside to it is, what if you need something at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night? You're probably not going to get a hold of them until Monday morning. So the originals is fine, or copies is fine, but having them elsewhere is also a good idea. Option three is a bank safe deposit box. And a lot of people default to putting everything in a safe deposit box at the bank. And on the surface, that seems like a very good, obvious answer. It's secure, it's fireproof, it's at the bank. But here's the problem. In Texas and in many other states, if you die, the bank can actually restrict access to the box until probate gets rolling. So the very documents your family needs to start the legal process might be locked behind the process they need the documents to start. Okay? It's kind of a mess. So if you use a safe deposit box, keep copies at home and make sure someone you trust is a co-owner of the box. And option four is a digital secure online vault. This is somewhat new in the last probably 10 to 15 years. Services like DocuBank or Everplans, where you can store digital copies of your documents. We're in the process, since we made our transition over to the RIA. So if you've heard of our e-money planning software, we used e-money before we made the transition, but now we just have a little more a feature. We have more feature-rich part of it, or plan, where you have a client vault in the e-money, and in that client vault, you're able to log in and see your plan just as we see it. You can set up account aggregation to have everything in one place. But the other thing is, you're able to, if you choose to, put these documents in your client vault so you can get a copy of them when you need them, no matter when it is. I haven't done it yet because we're still getting used to the e-money, all the new features to e-money, but I'll be loading mine up here shortly. And But when you keep in mind though, what you do put in that client vault is just a copy. It's not the original. And states like Texas still need original signatures. But if you need your power of attorney or a healthcare directive and you need it at 2 a.m., it's a great place to have all that because you can get it when you're there. So what's the answer? It's probably a good idea to have it in more than one place. The best setup for you might look like something like your originals in a fireproof safe at home with your spouse or your executor knowing the combination, copies at your attorney's office, and maybe a digital backup somewhere your family can access in an emergency. And just as important as where they are is maybe a document locator, a single one-page sheet that says, here's where my will is, here's where my trust is, here's where my financial accounts are, here's where my insurance policies are. Hand that to your executor, put it in your safe, put it handy in your files, update it once a year. We've created one of these, and if you'd like a copy of it, just please let me know and we can send it over to you. So none of this is complicated. It just requires a little intention because the people you love shouldn't have to go scavenger hunting during the worst week of their lives. And so it's just putting a little thought into preparing everything just in case. So if you have questions about this or anything else, please let me know. We always love to talk. Thank you and have a great day.